Martin Odegaard was bought from Real Madrid for a pretty cheap £30 million as they looked for a new creator after Mesut Ozil left the club. He first came in on loan and starred in those 6 months, finally bringing some artistry to a squad devoid of that, even getting a standing ovation after the last game of the season. And this star treatment convinced him to join permanently, where he then continued his momentum, becoming a top level Prem player and also got the Arsenal armband at just 23 years old. But after a world-class 2023 where he looked like he'd become one of the best cams in the world, Odegaard has now kinda dipped in form because of various injury issues. It began with a bad ankle sprain and then a recurring knee problem, which have eviscerated his body and obviously hindered his abilities. So as of now, we'll have to see if he can return to his old brilliance. Thomas Partey was Arteta's first big money signing, coming in from Atletico for a €50 million fee. He had been a great CDM under Diego Simeone for some years, but his first season in London was not the greatest time, as he was pretty inconsistent and suffered from numerous injuries. He got past that though and became one of their better players for the next 2 years, still having some injury issues but being a great press breaker whenever he was healthy. However, during this time, Partey was arrested on suspicion of multiple counts of serious crimes, so while he continued to feature for Arsenal, his career was overshadowed by this. And after a couple more years playing at the Emirates, Partey is now at Villarreal, but honestly that's not really important. What is important is that justice is served in this case. Willian came in from Chelsea after his contract had expired, as Arteta was looking for some experience in the early part of his rebuild. But while it was a free transfer, he had infinity high wages, so despite a good debut, he really was absolute garbage and he was so upset there that he terminated his contract a year in. He famously gave up over £20 million to do this and decided to thereafter go back home to Brazil, where he now looked completely washed and only got 1 goal the whole season. This then sadly led to him getting lots of abuse online, so he then went back to England to possibly rediscover his form, and luckily for Fulham, that is exactly what he did. In an unexpected renaissance, Willian became a key player at Craven Cottage, helping Fulham establish themselves as a mid-table side in the Prem, leaving after 2 years and now playing for Gremio. Cedric Soares was signed as another experienced player, providing depth and leadership for the young Arsenal fullbacks. And despite arriving injured, Cedric proved to be a solid buy, being a dependable member of the squad and actually starting for a stretch of games during his first full season there. But once better players came in, such as Ben White and Sakahiro Tomiyasu, Cedric got phased out of the rotation and was also declining with age, so he got loaned out to Fulham in 2023. That loan spell didn't get him much playtime as well though, and he rode out the rest of his very long Arsenal contract sitting on the bench and collecting a nice little bag. So when his contract finally ended, Cedric moved to Sao Paulo to finish out the end of his career, where he is a starter once again, being that stable, decent defender. Albert Sambi Lokonga had the physical profile of a future great defensive midfielder, and Arteta looked at him as a young star to develop. Vincent Kompany touted him as the next Yaya Toure, but in his first few games, Lokonga was clearly not ready just yet, being thrust into the starting 11 because of some injuries in the squad. So once the starters returned, Lokonga found himself on the bench, not getting many opportunities and not impressing in the ones he did get, as he never adapted to the higher level and looked lost more often than not. This led to a few loan spells where he tried to develop his game, and while things looked rough after he barely played at Crystal Palace, he played a bit better at Luton during their battle to stay up. Then he had his most game time so far in the next season at Sevilla, where he again played pretty decent and it looked like he was finally somewhat reaching his potential. But this wasn't to be in London, as they decided to sell him to Hamburg for just $300k, and thus far this was seemingly an absolute bargain buy, as he's had a resurgence in Germany and is one of Hamburg's better players now. Nuno Tavares was another promising young talent signing, being a pacey and energetic left back who only cost them 8 mil, and he was thought to be a backup option for Kieran Tierney, but he actually proved this wrong and started ahead of the Scot for a bit, being a dynamic attacking fullback in the fall of his first year. However, his defensive limitations made this just be a purple patch, as his positioning was erratic and his play was overall inconsistent, so Arteta lost trust in him and he was phased out of the rotation. He was still very young though and had some time to develop, so he was loaned to Marseille after that volatile season 1, where he played very well and got 6 goals as a defender. But the unstable defensive play was still present in his game, so he couldn't get going during another loan at Forest and looked to a Lazio loan as a decisive season for his career. And he took this opportunity by the scruff of the neck, providing 8 assists in his first 8 games, becoming a key starter for Lazio and getting his first international cap last year. Runner Alex Runerson was brought in to replace the old backup Emi Martinez, being a direct recommendation from their goalie coach at the time. Many were skeptical of the move as he'd been pretty bad at Dijon, having horrible goalie statistics and causing some controversy after fans discovered his old tweets calling Arsene Wenger a slur. And after a few decent games, Runerson proved his haters right in the Carabao Cup vs Man City, as it looked like the Symbols monkey was up there controlling his brain when he fumbled the Mahrez free kick straight into his own net. So he was effectively removed from the squad after that disaster and spent multiple seasons out on loan at various different clubs, from OH Leuven in Belgium to Alanyaspor in Turkey. He then had one more loan at Cardiff City in 2023, but that also failed to go well, so he returned to Denmark after that and has now been a backup goalie for Copenhagen for 3 years. Pablo Mari was signed to address Arsenal's defensive crisis at the time, as they had some injuries and also some very unreliable guys. Arteta had worked with him before at Man City in his youth, and Mari had just been one of the best CBs in Brazil, so when he started off really well, people thought he was a hidden gem. But unfortunately that was ended when he suffered a severe ankle injury, and he struggled to regain his spot as he fell behind Gabriel and Ben White, only playing 3 games in his last season at the club. So after a loan to Udinese, he then moved to Monza, and after a scary situation where he was attacked at a supermarket, he came back from this crime and became a key starter in Italy. Fiorentina then decided to make him their reinforcement signing of January, but he couldn't replicate his form from before and also had some injury issues to deal with. So after just 1 year there, Mari is now at Al Hilal, receiving the bag in Saudi Arabia alongside Liverpool legend Darwin Núñez, having worked through some tough obstacles to carve out a pretty solid career. Matthew Ryan was loaned in after Runnerson's aforementioned collapse, being an experienced Prem goalie for Brighton since 2017. He became the backup there though after Robert Sanchez arrived, so this short-term loan to Arsenal was a good deal for both sides, and he ended up just playing a cool 3 games for the Gunners. He then spent a couple years continuing to be a backup, playing for Real Sociedad and Copenhagen, where he again was just solid, and he also captained Australia to the World Cup round of 16. But he was now looking to be a true starter again, and he got his opportunity at AZ in the Netherlands, where he played pretty well and helped him finish 4th in his last season there. And after a short time at Lens, Ryan is back as a number 1 in the top 5 leagues of Europe, currently being Levante's main goalie and having a really great season so far. The most significant signing though, and one of the best signings of the last 10 years, was Gabriel Magalhaes from Lille for a now absolute bargain of just £27 million. He was an imposing figure, standing at 6'3", and also fit Arteta's needs for a left-footed CB, which was crucial for the Spaniard as he wanted to play out of the back. So Gabriel instantly made an impact and became their most reliable defender, displaying that elite aerial ability and scoring from a corner on his debut, which, you know, foreshadowed the Haram Ball of today. But in the beginning, he was still kind of raw, coming to the Premier League as a 22-year-old youngster, so while he was usually great, he did make some occasional mistakes and also was sometimes overly aggressive. All of these issues eventually did go away though, as he continued to gain experience throughout his first 3 seasons in London, being a constant set-piece threat and starting every game of 22-23. Then after William Saliba emerged, him and Gabriel formed one of the best CB duos in the world, being the backbone of Arsenal's consistent title challenges now and getting his first Brazil cap as well. So as of today, Gabriel is an absolute world-class defender, being a crucial part of the Gunners' infinity set-piece goal strategy, and now we just have to look on to see if they can get over the line this year. I'd appreciate it if you like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, comment below what you want to see next, and thank you for all the support so far.